I'd like to call this August 4th meeting of Montgomery County Schools Board of Education to order. First on our agenda tonight is the adoption of the agenda. Need a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Dozier moved. Second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Blake. All in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
Motion carried. So tonight for our opening devotional, I really feel like I'll have to do one because we had it earlier today. For those of you that were at the convocation, we had a very uplifting morning, but I do have a devotional. So as it begins this new school year, it's more than just a continuation of lessons and schedules. It's a new beginning, a fresh start, a sacred opportunity to build, to shape, to inspire. In education, each and every year is a reset. There are new faces, new challenges, new potential. As you step into your classrooms or school buses, cafeterias, playing fields, and offices, remember that this is not just the beginning of a new academic calendar. It's the beginning of new stories, new dreams, and new growth. We are not simply teaching content. You are cultivating futures. As teachers and staff, your work is deeply significant. You have been placed here with purpose. Whether you're leading a class, preparing meals, cleaning hallways, guiding administration, or supporting students behind the scenes, you are part of a mission that reflects God's heart for service, growth, and redemption. There will be long days and hard moments, but don't lose heart. Scripture reminds us, let us not grow weary in doing good. Your patience, your passion, your perseverance, none of it is wasted. Every small act of faithfulness is noticed by God and will produce fruit in time. Let this year be a reminder that every beginning holds the promise of transformation. And with God walking beside you, there is no limit to the good you can do. Now, if you will rise, and we'll do our pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I'll call, we have no one signing up for public comment, so now I will call on recognitions. Vice Chair Lynn Epps.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I would like the family of Betty and Oliver to come forward, please. All right, I'm going to try this. Okay, we got it. Montgomery County Board of Education, Resolution of Esteem for Betty Ann Oliver. Whereas our Heavenly Father, in His infinite love and wisdom, saw fit to call home Betty Ann Oliver on February 23rd, 2025. And whereas her dedication to Montgomery County Schools for 22 years as a school secretary and bookkeeper were a living testament of her integrity and skills. And whereas her loss will be deeply felt not only by those with whom she served, but also throughout her entire community and county. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Montgomery County Board of Education goes on record in expressing a sense of real loss and regret in her passing, that a copy of this resolution be conveyed to her family as an indication of our deep sympathy, and a copy of the same be filed as a part of our permanent minutes of the Board of Education.
Thank y'all.
I would like to say one thing, being one of the older members here. I think I was there Ms. Oliver's first year. I think she came the same time that Mr. Donnell came. And she was the perfect foil for Mr. Donnell. Mr. Donnell was hard as nails. And she was nice and sweet and offset his hard edges. And I thought the world of her.
She probably got you out of trouble, so. Well, Brian, I've told everybody, you don't know how tough high school is till your mama can take care
Oh,
of you.
yeah.
All right, so you,
Next on our agenda is the consent agenda, and we have had a request to hold that until after our closed session. So we'll move on now to Roman numeral number 1. North Carolina Public Schools will produce globally competitive students, and I call on Mr. Wade on.
Thank you, Chairwoman Evans, Dr. Roseborough, board members, for the opportunity to speak tonight as I load my PowerPoint.
I wanna know where the boots went that you had on.
That whole thing might be just for tires. Y'all saw me try to shimmy off the stage and I got called back.
I was looking you to jump off like something.
I think we videoed that dancing too, so
Yeah.
nice.
Somebody accused that they might try to make some money off that video. As long as they share, I'm okay with that. But again, thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. We're just going to talk about some updates in the department. So the first thing that I'd like to talk about is the math curriculum. I did not set this to do that, so I apologize. I don't know why it's got transitions. So we're in the process of getting a math curriculum. It's something that the teachers have been asking for many years, and we finally got to the point where we are able to do this. But I got to give credit to Dr. Perkins. Her and the IF group have really kind of been leading the charge on this, even though it says the curriculum team. But they identified, or they were looking at a bunch of different platforms to make sure that they were aligned with state standards and all that kind of stuff. And they basically narrowed it down to 3 top choices. And then, if you notice in the second bullet, we did request samples from those 3 top companies, the vendors that we had selected for samples so that teachers and staff members could come in and look at it. We did set those up in the staff development room and opened up the doors for staff members to come in and look at it. We did collect some survey data because, again, we wanted to make sure that they had a voice in the process. And we are pleased to say that from our K-8 teachers, please don't ask me how many we have because I don't know that number, but we did have 101 surveys submitted. So that we felt like that was a really good solid number from the number of teachers that we have at K-8. And 87% of those surveys submitted said that they liked Amplify Desmos Math the most. So we did move forward in the selection process. And I don't know why it's doing this, I apologize.
All that dancing.
It must have been. So some of the things that we're getting, and it's in the consent agenda for you guys to look at, the actual invoice. But we are getting online resources. Again, this is kindergarten through 8th grade. We are getting actual handheld materials as well. We're getting teacher guides, student workbooks. So each student, K-8, will have an actual tangible workbook for them to actually, have to actually do math. Because you guys know that math is one of those hands-on type curriculums. So we felt that was one of the necessities that we needed. So just to kind of test the waters, we only went for a 1-year subscription. Because remember, this time last year, we did a 3-year subscription with Amplify for the CKLA curriculum. But we're only going to do a 1-year subscription with the Amplify Desmos Math because it is such a new curriculum. We will be the 2nd district in the state of North Carolina to actually go with Amplify Desmos because it is such a new curriculum that they just came out with. But we feel really good about it, and the teachers really liked it.
Wait, who's the other?
Transylvania.
Yeah, I know it was in the western side, so Transylvania County.
Okay.
And I think they just started last year, correct? Yeah, because it just came out last year. But again, it's aligned with state standards, and it really, really looks like it's going to be good. So again, talking about some of the things that we're getting in-person training. We're getting like a monthly remote opportunity for teachers to remote into a virtual platform to talk with some of the coaches, again, just to make sure that the implementation goes very well and very seamlessly. See, that's the way it was supposed to come up, everything on one side. So the next thing that I wanted to cover is the consolidated federal plan. Most of you probably know this as the Title I plan, but actually underneath consolidated we have Titles 1 through 4, but those kind of deal with other areas like Title II is staff development, HR kind of takes care of that one, and then Title III is for ESL. So we've got some other things built into there, but we wanted to specifically talk about Title I tonight and some of the things that we're doing this year. So in our set-asides this year, we are required by federal law to set aside 1% for PFE or parent and family engagement. That comes from the Fed, so that is to make sure that we're trying to get families engaged in the student learning. We do build in a certain amount of money for homeless and foster funds. And the reason why we do this is because as kids come in and they're identified as McKinney-Vento, which covers all of the homeless stuff, we may have to provide transportation to get them to the district. And those are some of those costs that we don't really know that we're going to incur until they enroll in the district. So we always have a set aside for a certain amount to kind of cover some of those things. And then we always set aside administrative costs as well. Some of that is indirect fees that we're able to charge the grant for the work that the finance office has to do with, making sure that all the fiscal responsibility stuff is taken care of. But one thing that Dr. Roseborough wanted us to write in this year is some instructional coaching for our principals. Again, that's just part of the improvement efforts that the district's going to be working on this year. So we did add that in there as an administrative cost this year. Elementary schools are the ones that are identified as Title I. There's an ESSR report that has to be submitted, and so we did select elementary schools to be Title I. So the major things that are funded through Title I is additional teaching positions, instructional supplies, and then tutoring. So those are some of the major things. One thing that we're doing differently this year with Dr. Roseborough's vision for Title I is we are allowing principals in the past. We've always kind of given them pots of money for specific things to use, but this year the elementary principals are going to build their own budgets. We're going to give them just a base amount, and that's all based upon the PPA formula that we have to do within Title I, but they're going to be able to select and build their own budget, and that has not been the case in years past. So that is one thing that we are doing differently as we get ready to submit that. And if you notice down there in blue, the submission is due on August 31st. So I am frantically working on this plan to make sure that we get it submitted.
Let me say something
Yes,
about
ma'am.
that. Can you go back to that slide?
Yes.
The instructional coaching piece is our school improvement initiative cost. And within the federal guidelines for federal programming, you must set aside funds for district-wide school improvement. So it's not just instructional coaching, but the instructional coaching is built in with that school improvement coaching role that I think we talked about at our last board meeting. But within the federal guidelines for Title I, the district must set aside funds for school improvement, and that it is a priority for the school district, especially regarding the current state of the school district being a district in improvement. So we had to make sure that that happened. And then secondly, each school is allotted a number of funds for Title I, and they should be able to do a prioritized plan for those funds, and they must be aligned to their school improvement goals, district goals, and address their low performing school status. And so we are supposed to give them a portion of those funds after we do the district set aside that they've been allotted based off of their per pupil allocation number, the number of students that are identified as low socioeconomic status, and that determines the amount of funds that they get. So some schools may get more funding than others, and then from there, they can allot that to teaching positions, instructional supplies, or tutoring. But Mr. Taylor had, and also Mr. Almond have provided the schools for the chart of accounts so that they know what's an allowable expense under Title I. That's just a small bucket of different things that they can do with their funds to be able to close gaps for kids and include student outcomes.
Let me ask a question on that. Or if I understand you correctly, the schools are supposed to give you a budget on how they plan to use these funds?
A plan.
A plan,
A plan.
And it has to be an allowable expense
right?
within, so it is used to supplement, not supplant.
Yeah.
So to give you an idea, let's say a school went and said, I'm gonna buy Amplified Desmos as my math curriculum. I'm gonna buy it. Then the question would be, well, doesn't your district provide a core? And if your district provides a core, and then you want to supplement materials that we didn't purchase through Amplify, so if it's an additional workbook or additional software, then that will be supplemental. But we cannot go to them and say, we're gonna pay for half of the curriculum, and then we want you to pay for the other half of the curriculum. That is not allowed.
But what I'm saying is, they're coming up with a plan, and then they're gonna turn it into you folks, and y'all say, hey, that's a good plan, or that's good, but I'd like to fine tune it in this way. So y'all gonna have to find a say.
Yes, we have final say. It's 3 layers of approval.
Right.
So the principal will then sit down with Mr. Alman and he'll look it over to see if it's allowable, and then he will bring me the plan for approval.
I got you. Sounds good.
And remember, we've talked in the past about like CEP, and then when we used to do the old National School Lunch Forms, that per pupil allotment that we were talking about and Dr. Roseberg expanded on, that's all based upon that SAFE data that we pull from the different like SNAP and Medicaid and all those. That's where we get those percentages to identify the students that are at need at each school. So that's where that per pupil allotment comes from.
Well, you brought up a good point, SNAP. I mean, we're facing a problem in supermarkets, and so are y'all, I would assume, and if they're cutting SNAP benefits for the state, that's gonna affect the school system also, because there are gonna be people that were on SNAP this year that will not be on it the next year.
It could potentially impact who is identified, but
Right.
it's not gonna impact the level of funding that we get.
Okay,
Because the funding is based upon ADM, and then that money is allocated to the schools based upon that PPA, which is the SNAP benefits, Medicaid, and all that kind of stuff.
SNAP's just one thing.
It's just one thing, yeah, so
Not-
if they have
yeah.
SNAP and Medicaid, that
Yeah.
kid's still gonna be identified by Medicaid, but if they only receive SNAP, then potentially they may not be identified.
I
But
got you.
the school may still get an equal amount. It just depends upon how all the numbers work out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it doesn't affect the free lunches and breakfasts, because we still doing
We
that.
have 3 years left on that, under that grant. Yep,
It's one of
we're
my
still good for
favorite
3 years.
things.
And if we can get our participation rates up and the numbers look better, then we can, remember when we were talking about that, we can refresh that for 4 years, as long as the numbers go up.
Let me ask you one more question. It goes back to the first part about the math. You say if I understood you correctly, they're going to provide a handbook for each student?
Yes.
Yeah, a workbook,
Workbook.
handbook. Are they going to be able to take those home so the parents can help them? Because that was one of the big problems I had when kids went to school, didn't have school books anymore. So, you know, they had a problem, but there was no way, certainly since I've done it,
Yeah.
to be able to, well, let's look at it in the book and see how they did it, so then we'll know how to do this part.
They will be allowed to take the book home.
All right, that's
And
right.
we just pray that little Johnny brings it back every day.
Right.
So that might be a different
Yeah,
outcome based
I can
upon
see
that,
that being a
but
problem, but
but
I'm
yeah.
glad there are gonna be books. that can be taken
Is
home.
there some way that we can get that out to the public, because we're taking a big hit today with a post about the cell phones, and you're taking the cell phones away, but you still got the computers, why don't you give them books back? Okay, here's a book. Is there some way we can
Yeah, we can get that
advertise
information
that?
out.
And just, once again, I'd just like to state, that is a state law. Not in
Yeah,
law.
said person that posted that missed that part, didn't they?
Yes, I did. My
The
tires aren't flat yet, so.
The last thing that I wanted to cover real quick is just to give you guys a CTE CTE plan update. So again, we partner very heavily through CCP with MCC. We have a very strong partnership. And you guys remember when CCP was really kind of taking off, we moved a lot of our CTE programming down to the middle school. Because we were talking about then, kids were coming to high school and they were kind of bouncing around to different career pathways, so we let them do the exploration at the middle school so that they can make more aligned decisions on what they want to do when they get to high school. So again, I just wanted to highlight some of the major programs. So on the left side, those are the pathways that we offer. On the right side, those are some of our partnership pathways that MCC, or that partnership has allowed us to offer to our kids. So you can see it's a lot more robust than it used to be back in the day, because I remember when I was first CTE director a long time ago, we had 6 programs between East and West Montgomery because we duplicated programs because we were 2 campuses. So, and that's not even all of them. I ran out of space and I couldn't even list everything that MCC enables us to offer. But again, I just wanted to highlight how many opportunities our kids have because of the CTE program, the CTE building, and the programmatic partnership that we have between us and MCC. So some state updates that we're watching, well, some of them are already in place. But the first bullet there, we are required by law to do career plans both at the 8th grade and the 10th grade. So they have to create it while they're in middle school. They revise it when they get to high school, and it is an actual graduation requirement that they have that career plan. So we are aligned with that state legislation, and we are using the platform called Zello. There's a lot of interest surveys that kind of helps them identify what they're interested in, and then they build those plans based upon those interest surveys. And then another thing that we're kind of ahead of the curve on in Montgomery County, we do have a career development coordinator both at the middle school and at the high school. Not every district can say that, but we strategically went after a middle school CDC because of that career plan, that part where they have to develop it at the middle school level. We felt like we needed that position down there, so we were kind of, again, ahead of the curve there. We are looking at the computer science requirement. That is an upcoming requirement for graduation. If you notice the third little sub-bullet there, it does apply to the students entering high school next year as a freshman class, because we were able to do a waiver the past 2 years. So we still are on 1 more year of waiver, but the freshman class of next school year, that will be a graduation requirement for them to graduate from high school. And the CTE at the district level, at the state level, are identifying different courses that are going to be eligible to meet that computer science requirement. And there's a bunch of them out there. The one thing that we're struggling with right now, and the reason why we signed the waiver, is we actually have been trying to hire somebody for computer science, and we don't have anybody. But we're still working on it. The job is still posted. But again, next year's freshman class, because of the waiver, is the first class in Montgomery County Schools that's going to be required to have that for graduation.
So does CIS 110 count?
It does. And the problem is we've got to make sure that those kids are eligible to take those classes,
Yes.
because the GPA is going to keep some kids from being able to go that path. So we're going to have something on our side to offer to make sure we're compliant. And then the last bullet I put there was just, again, that continued focus on concentration, because the state of North Carolina allows us to have that ACT work keys as a either or for the ACT. So if they, let's say hypothetically, they score a 16 composite on the ACT, but they score a silver or higher on the work keys, then we get to count that as one of our high school accountability models because they met the minimum requirements on the work keys. So it's that either or. We talked about that a few years back when that first came into being. But that is another thing that they are continuing at the state level. So we are tracking kids, making sure that we get as many concentrators as possible, because if they're not a concentrator, then their work key score will not count. And most of the pathways at the state level now only require 2 courses within the pathway to concentrate in that pathway. So again, our guidance counselors are aware of that. They're tracking that information. Of course, we're tracking that in the CTE realm as well. And then the last little thing there in blue is that we have submitted our CTE plan, and it has been approved by our regional coordinator for this year. But as we progress through this year, this is our rewrite year, so we have to go through our comprehensive local needs assessment this year. So you guys may have to fill out a survey or two, but that's all part of the process. So we will do the CLNA process throughout this school year. We will start writing the next 2-year cycle of the CTE plan, which you have to do revisions each year, but it is a 2-year plan because you do your CLNA every 2 years. But we will be going through that process as we develop the next 2-year cycle of the CTE plan. Is there questions?
Yes. So, no sticky note. Back to the math curriculum. So I'm pretty sure I'm writing this. Didn't North Carolina, DPI, didn't they recently rewrite the math standard course of study? So I just want to make sure that we're not getting a curriculum that may soon, and that's another good reason for a 1 year, because they love to change that up,
They
like
do.
right after you adopt something.
Yeah, but
So,
this one
this
is
is
aligned.
good,
Yeah,
okay.
this is good.
And I think you said still all our elementary schools are considered Title I.
Yes, all of them are identified.
And with the principals able to build their own budget, I'm sure you are, but making sure they know what their deadlines are, like for spending that money. It always seems like to me sometimes that slips up and you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta spend that money. So.
I tell them all the time, if you don't spend it, I will.
Okay.
We're gonna make sure the money's spent.
Okay.
So if they don't spend it, we will. So yes, they are reminded throughout the year. Yes, ma'am.
But it does have to go back to their school improvement plan.
Yes, it has to be aligned with their school improvement plan, and that's the process that Dr. Roseberg brought in, is that they have to develop a prioritized plan that aligns with the district and school plan so that they can identify the ways that they're gonna spend the money for school improvement.
So could they spend it on tutors? I mean, it doesn't have to
Yes.
be materials, right?
It could be,
Okay.
it could be furniture, it could be curricular resources,
Right.
it could be tutors. There's a lot of, and that's why we printed off the chart of accounts for them. And, Mr. Pettiford, I can't remember now, wasn't that COA, wasn't it like 17 pages that I gave you the other day?
Correct.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff they can spend the money on, as long as it aligns with their school improvement plan.
And since you guys have got the final say-so on it, you're gonna make that would be an extra level
Yes,
to make sure that it is what it's supposed to be.
that is correct, yes, sir.
The only thing that I wanted to just address was the CDCs, the career development coordinators. Those are a gem in our schools to have them at that middle school level. And I do think our CTE at the middle school is one of the best in the state. And when they get to trying to make those decisions of what they want to do in college classes, that is very helpful. And it was also very helpful for the college when they put something out that we can start taking, students can start taking classes in 9th and 10th grade, that we were able to say, our schools have this, so that this also, they can just roll right in, especially for those students that need that so that they can keep coming to school. They need that interest. So I
As you
appreciate that.
guys communicate with your state reps and all, just always advocate for CTE, because we did lose more months of employment this year. We have lost months of employment, I think, for the past 3 or 4 years now. And so as that number shrinks, that means programs shrink and all that. So we're gonna try our best to maintain everything that we've got as long as the funding is there.
Great job. Because I know that was your baby to get in middle school.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll go to Dr. Roseborough with the end of year review dates.
So at our last meeting, we discussed moving the end of year review dates back to October to allow time for us to get our science scores in and for us to disaggregate that data once it comes in. So the new proposed dates are going to be Thursday, October 13th, Tuesday, October 21st, or Thursday, October 23rd. We propose to start dinner at 5:30 p.m. with the presentation lasting from 6 to 9 o'clock p.m. So please review and advise which date works best for your schedules. If you would like the time to start a little earlier so you can get out a little later, you need to be a little bit earlier than 9, let us know that as well.
We have our school visits the 23rd, is that correct? I know we have done that before where we made a day of it. Yeah.
Like today?
Just, I mean, that's just one idea. Anybody else have?
Mr. Blake and I prefer that Tuesday, but we can be willing to do
The 21st.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with
I really don't want to start full time.
it. Thursday would be better.
I got stuff.
it. What'd you say?
Thursday. Any. See that Thursday, Tuesday or Thursday. Okay, so we're
It
gonna,
does,
I'm not,
man.
well, but we're going this and that way, so what I need is for us to make a decision and, make a motion. Okay, Dr. Robledo made a motion, excuse me, made a motion for Thursday, October 23rd. Ms. Taylor, second. All those in favor? Opposed? And motion carries. Our end of year review will be Thursday, October 23rd, here at the central office.
You said it needed to start at 5:30, Mr. Doe, nothing wrong. Just talk fast.
Well, just, yeah, we need to hit the bullet points, but we
All right, we got you covered. All right. Oh, man, thank you. Next, we'll move on to Roman numeral number 2. North Carolina Public Schools will be led by 21st century professionals, and I call on Dr. Emily Shaw.
Well, it's always good when the HR update's not gonna take but just a couple minutes. Well, I guess that could be one or two things. Either we're in a pickle or we're in good shape. And fortunately for us, we are in really, really good shape. But I wanna start with just talking a little bit about our new hires for the year. I know that I talked at one of the board meetings, maybe in April or May, and kind of gave you an update on what our intent looked like. And based on the intent, and again, not everybody fills that out, it's not a mandated form. We did not have a lot of people either retiring or choosing not to come back. So from the gate, we were in really good shape. Now, again, over the summer, as when crazy things happen, people decide that they're either moving, their life's changing, or they've gotten a better offer from a different district. And so we did have lots of resignations come in over the summer, but that's not to be, alarming, and we didn't have any more than usual. So I wasn't very concerned about that. For the new school year, we have hired 18 new certified staff, but that's not just teachers, that's the 2 new social workers that we added. That's, anybody that has a license, that's a principal position, anything that carries a certification. And then we had 8 classified people that we have had to hire. So again, with our percentage, we're right on line with where we were last year. I do want to talk about our beginning teacher data for this school year because that's something that we have always focused on with our district improvement plans and with our strategic plan. We've always wanted to do a good job recruiting and retaining our teachers. And that just becomes harder and harder every year because in Montgomery County, we had 11 BTs, and I'll get to that slide in just a minute too. 9 BTs. Out of those, 1 had come out with a degree, and it was in PE. The other 8, they're coming on a permit to teach, meaning they just have that 4-year degree. So out of those 8, we have to convince them, we have to support them that teaching is the profession that they need and that they're wanted to be in, so that way they will come back next year. And that's really hard to do. We do have a great support system with George Hamilton in line to help with that, but still it's just a battle that we come through every year. So this year, like I said, we have 9 BT1s, we have 10 BT2s, 17 BT3s, and I did want to add that out of those BTs that we have, 10 of those are our EC teachers. So in a minute, when I look at the next slide, you're going to see that where our vacancies are in our EC positions. They're hard to fill, but they're also hard to fill with certified teachers as well. So we are doing everything we can to provide the support that they need to be in the classroom. And with the addition to Dr. Mason starting on our staff next week, we're really hopeful that she's going to help us with that support as well. Again, the number of beginning teachers that are seeking licensure through an alternative pathway are 25. So if you add up 27, 9, and 9, out of that number, 25 are alternative pathways, meaning that they went to college to be something else, and then they've decided that they wanted to teach. So they've never stepped foot into a classroom, and here we are, trying to expect them to know what Amplify is, to know what standards are, to know what Title I budgeting is. So it takes a village, but we are in it to win it, and we're trying our best. Total number of vacant positions, I'm extremely proud of this. I constantly rub this in the faces of my HR colleagues because their charts, even though we're a smaller district, they don't look in comparison anywhere close to ours. And I am going to add, though, that even since I made this chart, because I had to turn it into Ms. Davis last week, Mount Gilead have done their interviews for that part-time TA position, so that will be hired. That will be on the September board meeting. And Green Ridge sent me the staff action form for their science teacher today as well, which they're going to actually, she's going to do some shuffling, so that's not going to be a science teacher, but they're going to fill that science position in there. So we are making progress on that as well. So those vacancies, as long as nobody leaves us between now and September, that will go down. I have to turn a report in on Dr. Roseborough's behalf that tells our vacancies, and so I'm going to wait just another week or two just to see if we can have any more interest in those positions, to see if our numbers can go down a little bit more. Andy?
So you mentioned that our numbers are similar to what they were last year. Is that down from the years that we have not received the retention bonus? Because I want to be careful with how we portray those words.
Well, so we've received the retention bonus for 3 years. So I do feel like the retention bonus is extremely helpful in retaining those teachers, yes.
Okay, so we're in line, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
from before when
Oh, yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. And next we'll go down to Roman number 5, North Carolina Public Schools will be governed and supported by 21st century systems. And I'll call on Mr. Matthew Woodard for our operations update.
Good evening. I have the pleasure tonight to talk about a group of employees that I truly admire and respect, and that's the custodial staffs. I have said more than once that I think we ought to, reserve the first places in any line, the first seat in any auditorium, that we ought to start every meeting by recognizing the custodians in present that are in attendance, because they truly have a difficult job. The custodians don't report to me, they're school-based employees, but I recognize, as y'all do, that they're the ones that set up, clean up, paint up, wash up, pull the weeds, spread the fire ant poison, scrub the graffiti, and as a subset of employees, our custodians drive more buses than any other group of employees. So they are doing a lot. Unfortunately, last year their jobs got more difficult when, due to budget concerns, I believe, if I'm right, about 9 positions, part-time positions were removed from the custodial staff. So the ones left got more on their plate, which was very unfortunate. There's a recognized scale for facility cleanliness. It's a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is a operating room, has to be sterile. 5 is more like a manufacturing facility where at best they may take the trash out once a day. In that chart, elementary schools, pre-Ks, are identified as needing a level 2 of cleanliness. COVID's coming back around, if you hadn't heard. It's already jumped into us. So those are the standards you want for safety and cleanliness as a level 2. That report says for a standard 8-hour workday, you need 1 full-time custodian per every 18,000 square foot of facility space. We have almost 1 million square footage of facility space. applying that scale, instead of losing 9 part-time positions, we should have been adding 16 positions to meet that level of standard. So their jobs are just getting more difficult. Fortunately, however, Dr. Roseborough came in, and when she toured our facilities, and she recognized some of the areas that you see here in these pictures of deferred maintenance and cleanliness, that she, pulled the team together and said, look, we gotta do better. That not just for our clients, our students, but for staff and everybody. And so from there, it became a all hands on deck project. She went and identified the areas, facilities and interiors and safety compliance, and kind of gave us a roadmap to work by. And so we pulled all our maintenance staff, the plumbers, electrician, general maintenance staff, Bill Mingin's crew, and not just Bill, Zach in transportation, he sent over help to help in this, and it became like an old-fashioned barn raising. Everybody just pitched in and went to it, and you'll notice the smiles on the faces. They didn't resent having to drop their duties to do somebody else's job. Maintenance, transportation, they recognize how difficult custodians have it. So they were more than glad to help out, and so you see Stephanie Gomez there. Stephanie is a custodian here for central office, but she's also manages all our supplies. In order to control inventory and control costs, we centralize all our purchases, light bulbs, toilet paper, paper products, etc. So Stephanie's the one that delivers all those to school. And I believe that's Javier for transportation, painting there. And Jimmy Medlin and Matt Thompson and Michael Bennett. But the photos give a glimpse of the collective effort that was taking place. These pictures show the maintenance and transportation staff. Our real thanks is to the everyday custodians, but it's purposeful that I did not put their pictures on this slide, because when you walk into a school building and you start taking pictures of, people get apprehensive, and with a new custodian, with a new superintendent on board, everybody's a little bit anxious. But in the last slide here, thanks the custodians that are based in our schools, and they're the real heroes. Our folks that pitched in to help, we're glad to do it. And we are proud that Dr. Roseborough prioritizes our facilities, and as she stated in our leadership that week, that we need to get our facilities ready to learn. And we certainly want to reflect that. And that's a quote from her from that first week, that even a stained ceiling tile can affect learning. And so we want to be cognizant of that to pitch in. So there's the folks that are doing all the work. The first ones are the maintenance and transportation people that kind of pitched in. But starting with Mark Little Ford is the fine folks that on a day-to-day basis are driving our buses, and on average these folks are covering about 38,000 square foot of cleaning every day. That's a lot. So at any rate, appreciate the opportunity. Dr. Roseborough was also set up for us some informational sessions, things that other districts are doing to try to improve these things, facilities care and maintenance care. So we look forward to that. We've got those meetings lined up over the next couple of weeks. So we've got a lot going on, but we're happy for the support and enthusiasm. Dr. Roseborough, was anything I missed? Or?
Well, you want to tell us about your trip? Did you have a nice time?
I had a lovely time. It was a school safety conference that the Center for Safer Schools paid for. It's heartbreaking to go to safety conferences because, as Dr. Roseborough, y'all heard this morning, when you go through that, I still remember the first one I went to with Dylan Clybolt's mom. And of course, he was a shooter at Columbine. And I don't think there's a month that goes by that I don't think about that story. And again, he was the one that inflicted all the pain, but the impact on her and students, So to hear the horror stories is terrible. You know, the focus is always on, you have to stop the bullying, you have to get into schools, you have to build the culture. And I'm glad that is the focus now, is that culture building, because that's the best way to keep kids safe. Yes, we do need modern equipment and standards. Dr. Roseboro is working on getting voice over IP phones in the classrooms for safety reasons. That's an initiative, but at the same time, you want to prevent these things from happening, in addition to what do you do when it happens.
Limiting cell phones is gonna help with the too.
But it was my first time to Vegas, so I did enjoy it.
Oh, yes, say where it was.
I've been to Phoenix in the summer, you know, it's hot down there. It's not as hot in Vegas, but,
Come back with the same amount of money you
I
left.
was gonna say, you came back, so there must not have been.
I mean, how many
Must not have
times
been
did the
any big
roulette wheel
wins.
land on blank? Unfortunately, too many.
Thank you, Mr. Woodard. We
Thank you.
appreciate the teamwork and the support that your team has provided for schools. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, I didn't see Bill's name on there, so
Yeah.
please.
I did Bill's,
I know you mentioned him, but.
Yeah, he's got COVID, so, yeah, he tested positive Saturday, and, he's in pretty bad shape. So let's hope this strand is not gonna be as bad. I will, he was gonna be here, and
Tell me we're looking for him.
And this is the first year in many years we had seen outstanding.
Yes.
Congratulations.
That
Well,
was the
that's-
first thing I noticed when I came on the board. There was things,
another one of Dr. Roseboro's, agenda items is for us to meet with the board and outline some of the facility needs. This roof has been patched repeatedly. It needs to be replaced. We work with a company called REI. All they do is spec out roofs. They don't install roofs, they don't build the product. They just put together the bid package, put together the design, and they have a group of contractors that follow them around, because they're very good at what they do, and contractors like working for them because there's no, you know, fuzziness about it. Everything is laid out in great detail, and so we have that quote from REI to manage this project, and they also give a quote for what they think it's going to cost. And amazingly, they're within 2 or 3% every time of what it's going to cost. It's not going to be cheap to do this one in the bus garage, but as you can see, that it's long past due. I mean, Bill Hudson's son is out here repeatedly throwing tar on it, trying to stop the leaks.
Looking good.
So we will put together a prioritized plan for the board, as Mr. Woodard just stated, of our needs. And then we can prioritize where we're gonna go from there and work with Mr. Taylor to identify the appropriate budget to align with our needs. Additionally, we are on the quest of discovery. As he stated before, we're gonna be doing some research on some things that we know that Ashburn City Schools has been involved with, Moore County Schools. We're talking to different vendors that they have used to help kind of backfill gaps within the school district. We don't call it outsourcing, we call it insourcing. So they just come in a couple of times a year to kind of help support maintenance teams where you're shorthanded to do some of the heavy lifting work, like the beginning of the school year, the end of the school year, or when something happens that we didn't account for. So we're looking to learning more about that and what that looks like. I'm going to share that information with you as well to make an informed decision collectively about our next move. Okay?
Thank you. Sounds good. All right, next I'll call on Mr. Mitch Taylor for the finance update.
Thank you for this opportunity to update you on our budget. I'm going to be talking about both last year and this year coming up. Each year when we create our budget, we include almost $1 million in revenue from fund balance. And fund balance is the money our school district has in savings, to probably the best example. But our goal is to manage the expenses in such a way that we don't have to utilize that fund balance. Ideally, at the end of the year, we break even. We don't add to fund balance and we don't have to use it. And so I thought it would be good if we went back 10 years and just showed you sort of our history of where our fund balance was in 2014 and how it has changed since that time. If you'll notice, 2014 through 2016, we sort of did that. We broke even. I think we were to the good $5,000, and that's where you want to be. And then 2018 came along, and that was a little bit of a, well, it was a lot of a bad year. We had lost some funding that we were not aware of when we started the year. We had unexpected expenses. But that's why you want to have a good sound fund balance in order to weather a storm like that. And so then the next year we made adjustments and recovered some of that money. And then COVID came along, the pandemic, and that was not a normal situation. And we received $15 million in ESSER COVID funding, and the state encouraged us to grow our fund balance as much as possible because they knew that we would need it once that funding had gone away. And so, does anybody have any questions about that chart?
Mitch, how much do we have in fund balance now at this moment? I can't believe it.
Well, at the end of last year, we had $7,110,916.
And Mitch, can I ask you a question about fund balance? Is fund balance funds that are local, like we don't put state and federal money in fund balance, okay?
Yeah, whatever we don't spend in state, it goes back to the state, and the same with federal funds. Now, the COVID money, that was federal funds, but they allowed us to charge an indirect cost, which is you can pay yourself for utilities, all the things that you sort of your operational expenses. We can do that with the federal funds we receive now, but we can only charge like 2%. With the COVID funds, we could charge almost 20%. And so that's why I say we were encouraged to add to the fund balance.
Okay.
And so during this past school year, the 24-25 school year, we incurred several large expenses that will not reoccur during this school year. I've got that they totaled $725,000. Over the weekend, I thought of another expense that was close to $100,000 that will not be reoccurring this year. So almost over $800,000 in expenses that were one-time in nature. It was a repeat of that year, I think it was 2017, where we used almost $1.6 million. In addition to that, we lost in June of 2024, just as we were about to go into this school year, or this past school year, we lost the $300,000 Sand Hills Mental Grant. It was just, we had no forewarning, it was just discontinued, and we were given no time to make adjustments heading into the new school year. In February, you will remember we lost the TSL grant, which was for $21 million. And between those two grants, we had multiple salaries that were being paid. And we had to make some unexpected adjustments to either to make up for those salary expenses. Having said all that, this year we're going to use approximately 1.2 million in fund balance.
How much?
1.2 million. The auditors are coming next week to do our annual year-end audit, and they will have once they finalize their figures, they'll have the exact number. I'm trying to estimate on the high side so that hopefully when he finishes his audit, it will not be that bad, but it's going to be close. As I said before, the 725 plus another 100 are not going to be expenses that we face this year. The remaining amount of the deficit, we feel like we've already done some things to address those, and just like we did in that other year where we had a huge hit on our fund balance, we hope to come back next year and be at a more normal level. But the fact that so much of those expenses will not be reoccurring this year makes it a little easier to try to get back to a break-even point.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
How much of that, is that all salary?
Not all of it.
What percentage? How much of that 1.2 is salaries?
Well, 300 of it is included in the 825 as far as salaries that we had last year that we will not have this year, or salary-related expenses. Of the total 1.2 million, it's probably a little more than that. But there's other things. Property insurance went way up. Our electrical utility expenses went way up. So those things I didn't include because they will, they are recurring.
But it is great to know we got the money to spend, had the money to spend.
Well,
And had the money to spend.
it was reassuring to know that we had that to fall
And we
back
have been
on.
frugal in the past, but the problem is, that's, 6 more times and it's gone
That's correct.
at that rate. So, I'm gonna say some things, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but you tell me if I'm correct. We underestimated what the insurance is gonna be for our budget. We underestimated, what was the other thing you said?
Well, utilities.
Utilities. Okay, so those account for how much of that 1.2 million?
Maybe 100,000.
Maybe 100,000. So now we're down to 1.1. So the rest of the 1.1 is salaries that we
Well-
lost grants for and we continue to pay salaries?
Well, of the 825,000, 300,000 of that was salaries that are now gone. So that reduces the number again. 500,000 of that 825,000 was for, we purchased laptops in the 23-24 school year at the very end of school. Having purchased them, we knew they wouldn't come in until the beginning of this school year. And I think Dr. Ellis's thinking was, at worst, because we had added to fund balance, we could pay it from there, which we wound up doing, or we would, as the year went along, we would try to find other new sources of revenue, a grant, But then uh, the landscape for grants turned suddenly negative, and instead of obtaining grants, we were losing grants. So a big, like I said, out of that 825,000, 515 was for laptop computers that we will not be purchasing again this year.
But my question is, we do at some point, we were gonna have to buy new laptops.
Yes.
So we didn't budget for it.
Well, I feel like I remember some conversation about the laptops being ordered, but then we could not get them. And when they were able to be bought, the price had gone up. Do I remember that correctly?
I don't, I'm
The year before, we put 752,000 in, so 500,000 of it was supposed to be used on laptops. It just hit the wrong year. Does that sound?
Well,
They
and
were
I
delayed
can't
in
see,
coming.
I couldn't see the chart. So the year before, where were we on the fund balance? Did we add to it or did we take
We
away?
spent 76,000.
Oh, I'm a year behind then.
So we spent 76,000 the year before, last year, and then this year we're looking at 1.2 million. Okay, so I've got a couple questions. One is, where do we have that 7.2? Is it sitting in a CD somewhere where we're
Well,
earning interest on it? Because that's 300,000 a year if we earn 4% on it.
We have approximately 4 million in a interest-bearing account with the state. We're limited on what we can invest in.
Right. I know it has to be safe, but how much are we getting on that?
It's around 4%. Well, it's probably a little less than 4% now.
Right. And don't misunderstand, I'm not blaming you or anybody else. I'm just trying to make sure we're not sitting here a year from now or 2 years from now in the same situation that Winston-Salem's in, or Marlboro County,
Yeah.
because we didn't make moves now to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I understand there's stuff that we don't control, but when those things happen, we got to react to them faster. And I don't want to fire anybody, but if that's what we're going to have to do to make sure we don't go into fund balance, then we're going to have to make those hard decisions instead of waiting until the year is over and say, yeah, we paid 5 positions that we had set up for a grant and we lost that grant, and we didn't make the adjustments when we lost the grant.
We usually have to have a sustainability plan for when the grant goes away, so that we know how to budget. And so, to the point of the laptops, that was one of the questions I asked, what was the cycle of refresh? Because if you had a plan for sustainability of the laptops, you could have budgeted for the cycle of refresh. You may not had to purchase the number that you purchased all at one time if you had
Purchase so many each year, so instead of having 700,000 hit one year, it's 200,000 each year. But you adjust for that to make sure that you're not taking those monies out of fund balance. Those monies are coming from, well, you're not lowering your fund balance. So let me put it like that. I mean, you said, earlier, I thought you said that, you want it to be where you don't add to it and you don't take away from it. And as a business person, sounds to me like you really want to be where you're adding to it, not where you're keeping it the same way, so that when you do have extraordinary expenses, you're prepared for it. And I think y'all done a good job in getting us to that point. But like I say, it's only going to take a couple more times like this, and we're going to be in trouble. So I just want to make sure we have a plan to make sure that we address it way ahead of the time instead of waiting till it happens.
I appreciate
No, again, I'm not criticizing anybody, I just want to make sure.
if somebody had not asked those questions, I would have been disappointed. Because, yes, I see it, we see it just as seriously as you do.
That's all I had, you answered those questions. Thank you.
Okay, now an update on the 2025-26 district budget. And now the good news. Our local county commissioners approved approximately 7% increase in funding for the school district this year that amounts to approximately $400,000. And we're going to apply that $400,000 to some of the shortfalls that we've had this year. That is a huge, that was very generous. We asked for more, but we always ask for more. And this time they came a lot closer to giving us what we asked for. What I failed to put in there is that in addition to that, they also funded the retention bonus, $500,000 for another year. And so that came up earlier in somebody's discussion about HR, I think. So we will be able to continue that. Several weeks ago, in Dr. Roseborough's Friday update, she mentioned, I think, that the federal government had taken back $300,000 of our normal federal funding and said it was under review. After losing the TSL grant, that, to me, I just automatically thought, well, it's gone. But fortunately, we were notified last week that we will receive that funding. So I initially had that in the bad news section, but now it's in the good news section.
Mitch, we had a sales tax increase of 2% or something years ago. What is that? Is that going to a specific thing now? Or are we just still spending it out where we need it?
Matthew might be able to address that better than I can.
Article 46 was a quarter-cent sales tax
Yeah.
that the voters had to vote in. It is not earmarked for education. It can be changed however the Board of Commissioners want it. Right now, that quarter-cent revenue is being split 80-20. 80% to Montgomery County Schools, 20% to MCC to keep up
So we
facilities.
get it to do what we need to. Or do
They keep the money. Mitch sends in a quarterly request to be reimbursed. So Mitch pays the bill and then asks for the money back. That's how that works.
Is some of that, Matthew, some of that money used for the retention bonuses, or that's a whole separate problem?
No, from the time that we developed that, we set 1 cent of the ad valorem tax base for existing facilities and then the quarter-cent sales tax. And so that was generating about, and I haven't kept up with it recently, $700,000 a year was coming in just for existing facilities.
Just upkeep on facilities?
Yeah, the Central High School was a 4-cent tax increase, if you remember back in the day.
Right.
But right now, it's being split 80-20.
Okay, thank you.
The not so good news as far as this year's budget is that the state of North Carolina, which is by law required to pass a budget by July 1st, has not passed a budget yet. And I have heard rumors that they don't anticipate passing a budget until October. So that means we're 3 or 4 months into the current year, not knowing if there will be a raise, not knowing what the fringe benefit costs are going to be. We're going ahead with the current numbers that we have, but it just means it's aggravating trying to prepare a budget. And it's aggravating knowing that you're going to have to go back and adjust everything you've already done because you're not going to be exact. But that is not unusual, and we will deal with that. The Ellis grant, a 2-year grant that provided approximately $500,000 a year to 3 of our high-need elementary schools expired in June. We knew that was coming. The bad part is, again, in the landscape we're in right now, as far as grants, we're just not able, they're just not as plentiful as they were. And so usually, we've had this Ellis grant for years, and usually by the time one runs out, we've got something to replace it, and this year we don't. So that's about all I know as far as the budget for this year. Although the budget news is not good, we'll continue seeking to optimize the funding we do have. And if there's a grant to be offered, we will be applying for it. And all in the hopes of providing the best education possible to our students.
Thank you.
I forgot to ask, I meant to ask, do y'all have any questions after each slide, and I forgot to do that. Do you have any questions now?
We asked a bunch.
Okay, I expect it.
Good. Thanks, Tyler, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to our county commissioners as well for continuing to provide the retention bonus for our teachers and also the 7% increase that we requested. I know that they get hit with a lot of requests from a lot of entities, and the fact that they are supporting our students and our educators really says a lot about their commitment to education in Montgomery County. So thank you to our county commission.
That's a good point.
Before I go on to our superintendent's update, I wanted to mention to the board that there is a lead training, it's leadership, education, and development training. It's a regional meeting. Ours, I believe, is September the 3rd. And I will send it out to you guys. And Dr. Roseborough had mentioned it to me, and then the very next day I got the email. So I don't know who was listening in on our conversation. But anyway, I'll be glad to forward you guys more information through your email. But it's where Dr. Roseborough and as many board members as possible can go, and with a work session. And I think it's Greensboro or Winston. Like I said, I'll get that. It is in Winston-Salem. Yeah, not Las Vegas, no, sorry. No, but it is Wednesday, September 3rd, and I think I saw the time somewhere, no, right there, 9 a.m. to 12. So, like I said, I'll send that out, and then we'll be talking to Ms. Davis about getting any of us who want to go registered for that.
I think y'all would really like it.
I think so.
I guess I'm gonna step down.
So this is Roman number 6, superintendent's update.
This is our district improvement planning update. As you know, as you can see today, this was a combination of all of the work that we've been doing over the past 2 weeks. So I think our leadership development team, along with our principals, we have had a total of 6 days together collectively doing team building, synergizing ourselves, and making sure that we are on the path now for continuous improvement. And then also just recognizing the fact that we have a lot of work to do, but it's work that can be done, that's doable. We have people that have a lot of good skills. And as you saw today, we have a lot of folks that have the will to do what needs to be done to move Montgomery County Schools forward. So we are thankful for the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, the Office of School Transformation for supporting us and acting as our facilitators. The work that They did for us, as you know, can cost districts a lot of money if you go externally to have someone to help support you with this type of work. And they did a phenomenal job leading us in that quest. And we've defined 3 areas that are our highest priority areas. And those are our roles and responsibilities. We need clarity around roles and responsibilities. We have opportunities for improvement with communication barriers and the need for data-driven decisions to improve student achievement at the school level. And so that goes back to what we just talked about this evening about having a plan and planning for our funds, and it has to be tied to what we need to do to move student achievement. All of our departments get an update for our principals. I would say that Mr. Minjin is the winner of department updates. He did a fantastic job. He entertained us. We were able to get back on track. He woke us up, but he did a great job facilitating his session as well as everyone that presented. They were informative and allowed the principals to ask some detailed questions as we move forward into the 25-26 school year. As you know, the Back to School Bash was also phenomenal. We had over 700 attendees, and we want to give Madison a round of applause again for her hard work. Every single backpack was given out, which is remarkable. We even had friends that don't attend our school district at the Back to School Bash, and I was bold asking them to come back. I said, don't you want to come back to us when you see all this energy? And we had several families that said, we might consider that. Let's just see what you guys are going to do. So that was positive. And then also lots of community partners. I was able to get a lot of my one-on-ones done that night and talk with MCCC. Also got to talk to Trillium Health to get some clarity about the mental health grant that we lost and what services they can now provide the district. So I got some clarity on that. And then also Dr. Cable provided me with some additional information on what we're going to do to make up the gaps in that mental health grant that we lost with the Sand Hills region. Today, you saw our cell phone policy update and our signage that we want to use. We want to make sure that that is available for our students to see and our families when they come into our school buildings. I did add to the flyer, Ms. Epps made a mention of that we needed to make sure that it was signed into law, so you should not get those calls anymore.
Well, I
Because
think
we
somebody had
did.
taken a picture of this and posted it without us posting it.
Okay, but we will make sure we get it out there. We need to make sure, Madison, that it's this one where it says it was signed into law on July 1 into the schools.
Thank you.
So for back to school on August 11th, this week, Mr. Almond and I, we're thinking that we're gonna go ahead and get out there to see all the great work that Mr. Woodard's team has done to our buildings. So we will split up this week to kind of see how things are going and progressing to be sure that we're ready for August 11th. But also in the first 10 days of school, I will be assigning central office personnel to the schools to be able to support them. So we'll be out there during the morning and come back in the afternoon, probably around 11 or between 11 and 1 o'clock. We should be back over here depending on the needs. But we need to go out there and actually gauge what's going on over the first 10 days of school. And that's it. Are there any questions?
Did we introduce the new principal of Canberra?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Mr. Pettiford, would you please stand up? This is our new principal of Candor Elementary coming to us from Guilford County Schools, now Montgomery County Schools, and I would say that he is demonstrating his pride right now with his shirt on for his school and being the new principal and being all in at Convocation. So we do appreciate you being here this evening and with us this morning.
So not only at Convocation, he was at the Back to School Bash. He has been to lots of our district events on his own time prior to his August 1st start date. So we're very excited to have you and your energy at Candor.
If we do this, we don't usually introduce the new principal over the years. When
Sure.
they get you and invite them to them and say hello to them.
That would be great.
I like
Sure.
that.
That's a great idea. Make sure you do.
Very good. questions or comments?
Just a comment as we move forward. You know, a word that I like to think of is grace. And I think as we move through all of these great things that we're hearing, there's probably gonna be some pains to that as well. And so I just ask that everyone has grace, the public, the people here that work and put their heart and soul into it, us up here, you know, social media, the paper, everybody. Let's just have some grace. Let's not nitpick. Let's allow the person who we've hired to do their job and us support that. And then I was very, very pumped up when I left Central High School today. I was explaining, Mount Gilead was behind me. And Miss Collins had a whistle. So after the ringing got done, it just was exciting. And I was explaining to somebody, you know, graduation is always my favorite time, because that is our reward for what we do, is to watch those students walk across the stage. But that was very rewarding today, and I know that principals were stressed about what they were going to perform, but everybody did great, and they were having a good time, and they were laughing, and it was just great to see. So I just ask that folks have grace as we go through this transition. There's money that's different that we weren't expecting, that's, you know, stuff that's happened years before our new folks have even gotten here. So just some grace.
Mr. Blake and I were talking during the convocation about how good it was to see, put those faces with what school they work at, like, you know, who's who kind of. So it was good to see all our staff there together.
Who's willing to jump on the stage?
I thought all the students did a great job.
Yes.
They really did. They really did.
They put a lot of effort.
And I want to thank our principals for being with us
I
this
know.
evening, because I know
Now you
how
gotta-
tired you
Long
guys
day.
are
Long
from this
days.
morning. But it was just a little blurb in an email, and they just took it and ran with it, which shows us how much we can get done.
I think the bar has been set though for next year. Next year will be.
Yes, yes.
Well, I would just like to say, I know we're thanking everybody, and I know she probably don't want any recognition, but I'd just like to thank Dr. Roseborough for the ideas and for the energy and for everything that she has given to our staff, because the excitement that I saw in their faces today looked like folk who are ready to get to work. And I know you've had your boots on the ground ever since you stepped in here day one. And I want you to know I appreciate it. I appreciate the leadership that you give and the support to our staff. Folk, I've been here 3.5 years that I have not seen being able to give anything, and they're stepping up and shining. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And so we're just looking forward to what other great things are going to be coming about. I know we have money issues and all of that, but you know, there's a higher power that can take care of those things, and that's what we're going to hope for. And the great things that our children are going to be able to receive, and their parents take some of the stress off of them. Because today, when you talked about meeting parents where they are, I mean, that's something that they're not going to be used to. The fact that, yeah, they might work 2 jobs, but we're going to still make the effort to make sure that they can be involved in their child's education. That's going to mean the world to them. I know it would me. And then the community, you know, people are excited. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you. I know you know you don't expect anything because you're the leader but thank you. I want to thank you.
I do appreciate it. And thank you all for coming today in solidarity. We appreciate that as well. And also to our community members who may be listening, we appreciate all the gifts that we gave out and prizes we gave out for our teachers, which really shows that we have a true commitment to education in Montgomery County Schools. And we are thankful for that. We know that that's not the case across our state, but today we demonstrated that it can happen, that all hearts and minds can align for children. So thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Thank you so much. All right. If there's nothing further, I need
Excellent
a motion to go
opportunity
into
to
closed
hear
session. Mr. Dozier made a motion to go into closed session. Second, Ms. Taylor, all in favor? I need a motion for us to approve the consent agenda.
So
Mr. Dozier, second, Ms. Taylor, all in favor?
I'd like to recuse myself from voting on the personnel aspect of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Motion passed, to adopt the consent agenda. Next, we need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Dozier, Ms. Taylor, second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank